Live. We are very excited to get started. Just allow me a minute. Right, do we have Deb? Great. Hi, Deb. Good
Hi,
evening.
hi Antara. Am I audible clearly?
Yes. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you well. Hi, good evening.
Great. All right. So we have a strong audience here with us, Deb. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I want to say hi to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to be talking about a very important topic, which is the Forest Conservation Act, which has now been placed before a joint parliamentary committee. This particular act has many nuances. It has many long-standing implications, and our endeavor today is to really break it down in a manner that makes it accessible and also highlight some of the action points that each one of us can take to ensure that we make our voices heard at the right time in this process. I'll start with a quick round of introductions and then also introduce Dave, and then we can get started. So, hi, my name is Antara. I'm the founder of Civis, which is a nonprofit organization which works to gather people's inputs and take it to lawmakers at the right time. We're joined today by Debadityo Sinha, who's the lead of the Environment and Climate Vertical at the Vidhi Center of Legal Policy. Dave is, among many things, a long-term friend of Civis, and we're really excited to have him join us today. So, Dave, without further ado, I think I just want to dive straight into the first question, which is just to set some context really of what we're talking about today. Can you tell us a little bit more about how a forest is defined in India and what forest land looks like, how much data we have on forest land as it stands today?
Yeah, actually, Antara, like what we understand as forest in India, scientifically, ecologically, it is quite diverse because, as you know, we have 10 biogeographic zones. So, and every forest in every place is very different. So, if you go to high altitude or if you go to northeast, if you go to the Western Ghats, or if you go to central India, the forests are very different. And it's not that forest means there has to be big trees. So there are various, I think, more than 200 types of forest identified in the champion state classification. That is how scientists see the forest. If asked as an ecologist, then I will say the grasslands, the scrublands, they are all part of the forest. But how the law see forest is slightly different. And I think this is something which the courts have been trying to do, but it is very difficult. Uh, uh, so basically, now coming to the point of forest land. So basically, the Indian Forest Act, which is dating to 1957, actually it is quite older than that, but after amendments, I think the last act was 1957, and it has gone through many amendments. So we identify the government identifies any land that is the first protected forest under this Indian Forest Act. This is one aspect of it. Now, there are also lands which are privately managed and which may not be notified as reserve forest or protected forest, but they may be managed as forest and recorded as forest in government records. So the Supreme Court, and so they are also like now termed as forest. Why? Because in 1980, so after independence, like we all know that before independence we had like all these big forest lands were managed by zamindars and this kind of people who were used to landholders. So when we abolished this zamindari system, so a large chunk of land were either notified as forest or some other things. So, from 1950s to 1980, I think in 1950 the forest cover of India was above 25% or something. But till 1970, the forest cover was reduced to just I think 20 something, 19%, something like that. I don't know the exact figure, but there was some 4% of reduction in forest. It may sound very low, but if you compare the area, it is like massive. And the reason was like national forest policies which existed before. Like the why we had the forest is you have to understand the British had for the first time uh, they showed their eminent domain on the lands and they say the forests are important as a resource. So basically, the forests were notified as a government forest because the British government wanted to have control over these lands for the timber. Because that time timber was used for railways, for building material, for shipbuildings, everything. It was a huge resource. That's why, like the Indian Forest Act, whole purpose of Indian Forest Act was to control over the resources. And the next forest policy, it also said that forests are important for agricultural, production. So at one point in time, we didn't have any dedicated ministry to environment, and forests were actually managed by Food and Agriculture Ministry. Okay, so there was no clear definition of forest. I think it was only of the British, and after independence, where most of the states they also brought their own act to regulate private forest. For example, United Provinces Private Forest Act. Tamil Nadu also has its own private forest act. And forest is different from trees. Now it is very complicated, but you have to understand that trees outside forest lands have their own legislation for trees act, but forests are like notified or something is by Indian Forest Act. This is notified. Now in 1980, the government realized that there is so much deforestation, we have to halt it. So for the first time, we brought this Forest Conservation Act. So before that, it was always exploitation of forest. So 1980, the Forest Conservation Act says that for any diversion of forest for non-forest purpose, the state has to take permission from central government under Section 2. That is a very short act. I think there are only 4 or 5 sections in the Forest Conservation Act, and there are rules beyond that. Now, that also didn't stop the deforestation rate, and the primary reason was that the way it was interpreted by the states and other players, that it only applies to notified forests, and there are many petitions in court, like going to court, and Supreme Court, I think 1990s, 91 or something, 94, something around that time. So this person called T.N. Godavarman, so he filed a case in Supreme Court, and basically he was disappointed with the level of deforestation going on in his district. And in that judgment, Supreme Court says that because the forest is not defined in the law, although we understand forest ye hai, but it is nowhere defined in the law. In the Forest Conservation Act also, it doesn't define any forest as such. So the court says that anything when the law is silent or something, the courts can interpret in a way. So it will see constitutional values, it will see national forest policy and everything. So the court says that now we will go by the dictionary meaning of forest, and also the court says that for the purpose of Forest Conservation Act, it's a dictionary meaning, but when you need permission is either the forest is notified as a reserve forest or anything under any for Indian Forest Act or any other state law. Second, it says not only the forest qualified dictionary, but it is recorded as forest in some government record. It may be revenue record, it may be record of some irrigation department, any government record. If it mentions the land has been forest before, then it will require forest clearance. This is the basic thing. I think since 1996, this order came in 12th December 1996. The famous case called Godavarman. So it is still now going on. I think this is the longest running case in the Supreme Court. One of the largest, maybe longest. I don't know. But it has been going on since 1990s, and it is still going on. And I think a lot of forest matters are now exclusively dealt by the Godavarman case. This case, which was so famous. So so basically you understood this thing. One is a notified forest, one is a recorded forest. Others are just which exist as a forest. So there are some gray areas, but the Supreme Court has been quite landmark in protecting those forests, like which were otherwise were being deforested. So sorry for the long answer, but this is the background which everyone should know before jumping into any discussion on the forest.
No, absolutely. And thanks so much for that, Dave, because there's a couple of things that I found particularly interesting. One is, of course, the scientific definition of the forest and the legal definition of forest being two different things. The other is legacy and how you deal with your legacy of forest use also. So that was really helpful in setting the context of where we are today. Interesting also to see that there was a lot of litigation that has actually over the years brought us to the space where we are today. I think one of the things that I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into is that now there is an amendment which has been proposed for the particular act. And I wanted to understand a little bit more from you about what are some of the main changes in the amendment? We know that there are some exemptions, there has been some writing around this as well. But for somebody who's perhaps coming across this for the first time, could you tell us a little bit more about what are the changes? And also perhaps what are the changes that we might see in the forests we interact with?
Yeah, so basically, it's not that this Forest Act has not been amended. It has been amended many times. And the purpose of this Forest Conservation Act is conservation of forest. Basically, the main purpose is to halt the deforestation of the forest. That's the main purpose. Now, this bill, which was introduced in Parliament in last session, there was also consultation on that. I think in 2021 they had the consultation. So what it essentially does is it tries to. So the preamble says, like the objective reason says that it is to clarify the definition of forest and to avoid any interpretation of wrong interpretation of good government. That's what they have said. And if you see the preamble, the whole preamble, like it mentions very fancy stuff, and it is like very pro forest. So if I want to me to read, then it says this the preamble. This is now introduced in the bill. This says that importance for us to realize the achievement of national targets of net zero emissions by 2070, maintaining forest carbon stock, to create a carbon sink of additional 2.53 billion tons of CO2 by 2030, increase in forest cover to one-third of the land area. So this one-third is a target since National Forest Policy 1988, and we are still at just above 20%. So this is there. So the whole preamble which the bill has added is says that it is for protection of forest, all these things. But if you go in the details of the amendment, so you will see that there is really a very great level of contradiction in the preamble and the things which are proposed. So first thing it affects is that for the first time it lists the forest which will be regulated under Forest Conservation Act. So now you have to understand why this is important, because once any land is qualified under Forest Conservation Act, that means the Section 2 will apply to it. Section 2 means that for any non-forest use in those forest land, non-forest means it is not related to forestry, okay, which is like I think non-forestry. So it can be any construction or whatever like you want to do. So you need to take permission of central government, because forests are in concurrent list. So state has to take permission of the center as well. So, but now this amendment, what it actually does is it creates several exceptions. First, at the level of how the law sees the forest. So, if I tell you the overall picture is that it tries to create exemptions from the government order. So, why I'm saying so? Because there's a section 1A. Now, I will try to explain in a simple language for people who are not lawyers. So basically, as I told you, that Forest Conservation Act applies to all the forests, and government orders state that anything recorded in forest will require forest clearance. But this amendment, the first thing it says is that anything notified as forest will require forest clearance. Very good. Second thing it says the land that is not covered under notified or whatever, but has been recorded in government record as forest as on or after 25th October 1980. So what it says is that any land which is recorded as government forest but not notified under any government record as on or after 25th October 1980 is the date when the Forest Conservation Act came into existence. Okay. So it essentially can be like interpreted in very many ways. One can be that till that date, whatever the recordings of the forest, they will be included as a Forest Conservation Act, but it also says on or after. So if the purpose is to till and after, then why you want to have this cutoff date? The other interpretation, which when you talk to many forest officers, senior officers, they say the meaning can be interpreted as that only those forests which are recorded as forest, land which are recorded as forest after 1980 will be considered as forest. That means all those lands which are recorded as forest before 1980, they may not require any forest clearance. Now, this is important to understand because many of the forest lands, they are not notified. Like they are supposed to be notified, or they are like, they're just recorded as forest. Like in Delhi, I know there is a place called Mangalbani, it's a sacred grove. There are good wildlife as forest, but it is recorded as Gair Mumkin Kahar. That means uncultivable land. It is forest, fully forest. It is not recognized as forest. It is not never recorded as forest in any government record. So this becomes challengeful because right now the government order Supreme Court applies to those kind of forests, and there is a thing called deemed forest. So deemed forest means which is deemed to be a forest. So one, the state identifies deemed forest. Secondly, Supreme Court so direction like anywhere to mention as forest, then you can apply. So first it affects those kind of restrictions of the Supreme Court on this thing. The second thing it says there is a proviso to it. It says it will not apply to any land which has changed from forest use to non-forest use on or before 12 December 1996. The date 12 December 1996 is the date when this government order came. Why it is important? Because it says that suppose any state or any other administration, they have transferred the forest land for a non-forest use before the government order, they will not require any forest clearance. Now, this is also contrary to the Supreme judgment because Supreme Court judgment has said in many occasions that this definition of forest will apply since the date of this Forest Conservation Act was enacted. So after that, any state government has done diverted any forest without permission of central government, they're in violation, and they must take permission of the central government. Now, one implication of this thing that suppose, for example, some forests are leased out for, like for example, in Western Ghats, many forests are leased out for like coffee plantations, even mining quarries. So they were leased out even before 1980 of the Forest Act. Their lease is going to expire maybe next 2 3 years, something for 30, 40, 50 years lease. जो भी है. Some of these plantations are also within the tiger reserve, within the wildlife sanctuary, within places where like which are very important. So when the lease expires, then you have to take permission again. But this proviso says that if the state has already devoted it for non-forest purpose, then they will find forest. So I think these three exceptions is the first thing. Other thing is says that uh, it also creates some other exemptions like which will not treat it as non-forest, not treated as non-forest use. For example, they say that any strategic linear project within 100 kilometers from the international border or LAC. Now, strategic linear projects, it's not that these projects are prohibited. They are given permissions at a very expeditiously, very fast rate. When I speak to some officers in Northeast, so they tell me that within 1 month they are getting clearances. It is not like that. And government of India has already relaxed their permission criteria through called general provisions, something like that. That if they apply, they will be given clearances at a very fast track process. It's not that these projects are like affected, but because we have Forest Clearance Act, there is some oversight. It's just like a railway corridor where you have unmanned barricade and there is no barricade. So this psychological impact is very important, and there is some regulatory oversight, so you cannot misuse those kind of permissions. Okay. So one is that, so it says that any linear construction, road or railway within 100 kilometers from the border or LSC, they will not require forest clearance. Other thing is prescribed is very, I'll just tell you briefly. It says any security infrastructure within the main continent anywhere up to some 5 or 10 hectares, something like that. It also mentions public utility project. Now, public utility is a very wide term. It also means banks. It also means insurance offices. It also means toilets. This means everything, like even some bus terminal. You don't know. So when you say this up to 10 hectares, so and you have no check on like within a large contiguous forest, first they are like cancerous growth. Okay, so it's not that they will come alone. They will also require electricity. They will also require water. They will require waste disposal. They will require access road. They will require electricity lines. So there's a huge impact. And then alongside access road, there will be more constructions. And there is no limit on 10 hectares. Suppose today I took 10 hectares of land. I developed something. Now tomorrow CRP is saying that I also want to develop one more building at 10 hectares. So there is no end to it. So this is one thing. The other thing is that they also propose that 0.1 hectares of land alongside rail and railway will be exempted for the requirements of forest clearance. Now, in the name of road amenity or something. So, if you go through the government documents, road amenities include restaurants, dhabas, dormitories, parking spaces, everything. So, and there's no limit. So basically, just imagine there's so much criticism of the fragmentation of forest by infrastructure. There are so many animal killings. There was reports that per year some 10 to 11 are being killed through rain, through train and road. So many tigers are being killed. This is just a tip of the iceberg. There's so many accidents which are never recorded. And it's not only about accidents, it's also about fragmentation of forest. Because once the forest is fragmented, there are many species which become extinct because which are more sensitive. You also make them prone to some invasive species. Other many things. You also make them prone to hunting and all. So there is n number of impacts of roads. Now you want to create some vertical structures alongside roads. So it will very like it is ultra virus and inconsistent to the purpose of the act. The other, I think, the important thing, yeah. So now other important thing is like what they say that this will not be treated as non-forest activity. So usually what happens is that the forestry related activities like creating water holes for animal or creating wireless communication for the forest staff or their staff quarter for monitoring, patrolling, these are exempted already under working plan because these are ancillary, they're called ancillary to conservation. So these are like justified on basis that they are required for the proper management of forest and protection of forest. But now they are expanding the scope and now they are saying zoo, safari and ecotourism will be also counted as forest activities. Now Zoo safaris are, everyone knows, not a forestry activities, and you cannot bring a zoo safari at the cost of native forest and wildlife. Okay, what's the point of destroying habitat and building some like man-made structure, and that's for tourism? So, and ecotourism, we all know there is no scientific basis that ecotourism are actually good for forest. And there are, in fact, many papers which says that when you link it with some with this market pressure, so there is a huge demand of tourism. Examples are everywhere. You go to any place in Himalayas or any place, any tiger reserve where you see, like there are huge constructions come up. There are like many townships. Okay, there are parking lots, there are resorts. So tourism doesn't exist in India anymore. So this kind of activities they have exempted. So this also is inconsistent. So if you see the whole act, it only creates exemptions from the requirement of forest and and the other thing is that they have also focused on plantations. They said that this project will be cleared by terms and conditions of plantations. Now, plantations cannot create the natural forest because natural forest are complicated structures. They have they have understory, they have ground vegetation. They have the concept of 3-4 story of forest. So it is a it's a different ecosystem altogether. It's a habitat of wildlife. You cannot recreate those kind of ecosystems by planting some selected invasive species like exotic species and say that we have growth of trees. Carbon sequestration is just one of the functions of forest. And there are enough literature which says that grasslands and natural forests are better carbon sequestration potential. And they also provide so many benefits, like they are wildlife habitat. They act as a buffer against all the zoonotic diseases like COVID, and I think 76% of the epidemics are they originate in wildlife. So this kind of natural forests actually act as a buffer against those diseases. They are very important for the livelihood of local communities which are living in the forest. The other last one I want to mention that already last year, sorry, last year only there is a forest conservation rules which was amended. And previously, what used to happen was there is also called Forest Rights Act, and there are rights given under Forest Rights Act. So for any forest clearance, the permission for Gram Sabha under FRA and there is a called Panchayat Extension Schedule Areas Act, these things were mandatory. So they already removed that mandate and they said that it will be initiated only after stage 2 forest clearance. That means just have to comply once you get the first. But still there was some provision. But when you exempt this kind of land from any forest clearance, that means they will not go through those processes of mandatory consent of Gram Sabha and all those things. And also last point, this 100 kilometers radius, if you see the entire northeast and and significant number of area of the Himalayas and the Western India, which are very unique in terms of biodiversity and the forest will also be endangered. Okay, these are the areas which have the least human presence, and this is the reason they are also biodiversity hotspot. So yeah, so I think this is something which really concerns people who are concerned about the forest, and it specifically opens them for commercial purposes, which is clearly against the National Forest Policy or India's agreement under the international conventions or even the Forest Conservation Act. So yeah.
Right. No, thanks. Thanks for that, Dave. I think that was one of the most concerning things for me also as I read the act, which was the line in the act which says that we're keen to open out pathways or area land use along highways and roadways for small buildings or small enterprises, but you don't really know what the extent of small really is. And your point is really good that you can't create something in isolation. If you're creating a township for any purpose, be it security or any purpose at all, you need to provide for the access roads, which are again then expanding the boundaries of any land. So I think those are very, very important points, and thank you so much for bringing that up. I have one or two questions that I want to ask before we close out the live, but I also just want to invite comments from anybody who would like to ask a question as well. Just enter it into the chat, and we'd be happy to answer those questions live. Dave, I think my one question, which is something that has been bugging me that I wanted to ask you, is that this particular bill talks about the fact that it needs to be recognized as a forest by state government or by the central government. Now, what is the status, or do we have enough data and enough mapping? Is the information available with the state and central government sufficient? Is it synced for us to know what is defined clearly as a forest or not? Or is it something that is still very fragmented?
Actually, Antara, thanks for asking the question. Now, of course, this information has been very complicated and controversial, and states like are the best, system to identify those forests. But we have seen that a large chunk of forests are yet to be identified and even recognized. For example, as we mentioned, there is a if you see the FSI, the Forest Service of India. So the last FSI they have changed the definition of forest for the purpose of the Forest Survey of India. So we have shown that we have 24% forest cover. Actually, they included everything within tree cover, even garden behind your house as a forest cover. That is wrong. But for the FSI, they have including as many kind of categories of land as forest because we have to show that we are doing very well in forest. But actually, data shows that we are losing primary forest. The other significant part is that because we have a colonial legacy, so we only identify those land which are woodland as forest, and there are large kind of other kind of forests like there are odons in Rajasthan. So these are like huge tract of land which are like a forest in their sense, in desert sense, and they're very rich in biodiversity like GI dictating the bustards are found there. I think last remaining 80, 90 are of India are found in these forums, and they are yet to be notified or recognized as forests, despite Supreme Court saying they do it. I just want to cite one data, which is like about in FSI there's a thing called unclassed forest. So basically, unclassed forests are those forests which are they're not notified as reserve forest or protected forest. And some states, like Nagaland, I think 97% of the state is unclassed forest. Okay, so they are not notified as forest. I think most of Northeast, Meghalaya also 88%. Arunachal has some 53% of those forests as unclassed. This kind of forests are there. And some states have a very small number of these forests. Like, for example, Bihar has just 10% of forests are unclassed. Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, they are like within 7 to 8% of range. Otherwise, if you see most of the forests in like Northeast, Arunachal, Tripura, Manipur, Meghalaya, Nagaland, these are like above 60%, 70% of forests within unclassed forests. These forests are like, if you see overall India's percentage of forest cover is 15%, 15 or 16% of that. And there are also large chunk of forests which are yet to be notified as forest by the states. So this process is still going on. Okay, there have been cases, there have been disputes. So this is clearly a very gray area, and there are things called Jhurupi Jungle. So there are many terms which are been like uh, Gair Munging Pahar. Now, it is heard, it means that uncultivable hills. Okay, but they are forests. So this kind of local terminologies are also used. Even if Supreme Court order says that recorded as forest, but this term forest may not be used, but it actually like Orens, you cannot say prove it is forest, but Supreme Court says these are to be declared as deemed forest. Okay, so states have been very negligent, and I think the reason was that why forest was brought to concurrent list is that states didn't have any incentive to promote protect the forest. Okay, so and these are land banks basically, because otherwise we are also one of the most populous countries, and we may surpass China very soon, and we don't have that much land. So land is a very precious resource in the country like India, and I think forests are now becoming more vulnerable because in forest it is very easy to get the land if you are in government and to sell it like lease up to any party or whatever you want to do because there are no human hindrance to it. And in today's time, forest and wildlife is no one's cause. So I think that's the reason that states don't have any incentive to protect and recognize those forests. There are so many regiments of different areas. The Supreme Court, the states have not even declared them deemed forest. Forget about forest, deemed forest also they have not declared. I think there are some pressures like from the people also. I mean, even if you go to people also, people will say that because of the development रुक गया है हमारे यहाँ पे ये नहीं cannot be done. I have a lot of land, but I cannot do anything because it is as a forest. Even you don't people don't plant native trees because they fear that there will be forest law, some tree act will apply. So they plant eucalyptus or this kind of trees. So these are very complex different things. So clearly, it is a very gray area, and states are not willing to do, and uh, very few people actually. So whatever forest we have preserved, because Supreme Court has some good forest officers who took great interest in preserving those things, or some activists. Otherwise, yeah, it is not a very good scenario on ground.
Right, right. Thanks for that, Dave. I think it just highlights that there's so much to be thought about before you can grant exemptions. Also, you first need to know what you have to exempt in any way. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done here. I think my last question, and just also a shout out to Preserver01, who's echoed that comment in saying that there isn't a lot of data, which is causing a lot of trouble even when these matters go up for litigation. So I think my last question on this, Dave, is fairly straightforward. I think we've seen that the evolution of a forest in India, its definition, its protection, has come about because of a lot of citizen engagement and activism on behalf of petitioners in courts and other forums. Where we are today, what can we do? What is the status of the law currently? How can we engage with this in a meaningful way and have a say in our own capacity? So I think that's the question I'd like to.
So actually, what I think, I will be very pragmatic here. I don't want to tell you very fancy stuff that you have to do study law, you have to participate in this kind of thing. I think these things come naturally, and every place has forest and natural places. I think we are losing the connect with them. So, and many forests, they don't have any documentation of wildlife. Okay, there are huge tract of forests, and all the focus by the NGOs and the institution are only very prime forest, like protected areas like Corbett or Kaziranga, or like Kabini in the Karnataka. So this kind of some fancy top. We have 900 protected areas, and one third and these are just 5 or 6% of the land, but we have 20% of forest cover, and these the forests are home to some of the most endangered wildlife, which you will not find inside coastal areas, like for example, wolves, hyena, GIBs, for example. It's very surprising to see that GIBs inside PAs just got extinct, but they are surviving in Odens of Rajasthan, so the last habitat. And these are not protected forests; they're community managed lands. Okay, so I think the wetlands are also like I consider wetlands also as a forest. So whatever we have been able to save is through people like who are interested, who have documented the for the significance of those forests. For example, Mangar, there is a person Sunil who lives there and who was interested, so he documented the wildlife there. He documented everything. Even documentation helps in the long term because any change in the land use, you can always counter with the information you have. When you go to the courts, it also helps you with a tool that this area is significant for biodiversity and so much carbon sequestration potential. So I think in a country like India, which is a democratic country, the pressure has to come from people, and it will come only when we are ourselves make ourselves aware. Okay, fine, we are in an age where we cannot go now. At least younger people in a family, just take them to the forest instead of going to malls. Just make a routine that every month, once or two times, you will go to some nearest forest or not parks. Parks are not forests; these are like urban where we have. But natural forests, riverside, river banks, go to a wetland and see what is going there. So I think this helps in the long term. So yeah, and I think the present generation is more active in the internet age, and people are doing their best. And I think today, if I compare with 20 years before, now today governments are more accountable. Although there are efforts to evade this thing, but it is a difficult thing to this time to escape any wrongdoing. Okay, we are in such a thing like matter of tweet or mobile, you take a photo and it becomes viral. So there is always ways to do things. So yeah, it doesn't happen overnight, but we should be thinking to yeah, educate ourselves and educate also to others.
Absolutely. No, thanks for that, Dave. I think that's really charged me up also. I feel like exploring at least what's around us is a good start, and there's many steps that we can take as active citizens. So I just wanted to thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an excellent conversation. I wanted to, before we close out, also just mention a couple of things. The recording of this will continue to be live on Instagram, available on our feed, and on other channels like YouTube as well. One of the things that we can do today itself is actually work on commenting on this particular amendment. You can either do that through the link that Civis has put up. Vidhi also is making a joint representation. There's a link for that as well, which we'll share in the comments shortly after the live. Organizations like Jhatka have petitions out that you can sign and submit. So there is a lot happening around this particular bill. If you feel strongly, do go ahead and engage, because it's part of a process of longer term change, just like they mentioned. And last but not least, this particular way of engaging through IG Lives and decoding some of the complicated big bills that we're talking about is going to become a regular feature of our work. So do join us next week, where we talk to, in fact, one of Dave's colleagues about some of the new disabilities consultations that have been coming out with disabilities guidelines for public spaces, and also including disabilities guidelines reports, which just came out recently. So with that, I just want to say thank you, Dip. Good night. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. This has been a really enriching conversation, and looking forward to keep it.
Yeah. Thank you, Antara. Thank you so much for having this talk and having me here. And the last date of submission is, I think, hopefully 18th of May. And as Antara said, that Civis has put up a summary, and they have tried to facilitate the contribution. Otherwise, you have to go through, you have to write and send it. So they are doing it. So it will take hardly 4 or 5 minutes. So definitely, you should participate in this kind of efforts to improve the public participation in environmental lawmaking. Otherwise, so yeah, all the best to you too also for your work, and thank you for organizing this.
Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
See you. Good evening.